welcome to the Haven Hang. I'm Camille Thurman, and I am thrilled and honored to have a musician that I respect and love so dearly. I call her my sister. Please give it up for Jazzmeia Horn. Hi, Jazz.
Hey, Camille.
How's it going?
Everything is everything.
Awesome. Thank you
Everything
for
is
joining me.
everything.
So, we have a history.
Yeah.
On the scene, and I remember seeing you and I was like, dang, this woman is handling her business, and I love her spirit and energy, and I love what she's about when it comes to the music and everything that she's representing. So I wanted to ask you, for our young Lioness musicians out there that are listening, how did you get started?
Well, I started singing in a church choir in my grandfather and my dad's church choir back home. It's called the Golden Chain Missionary Baptist Church. So I grew up Southern Missionary Baptist. And I started singing when I was about 3. They made us do something. We had to participate on the usher board or pass out hymnals. We had to do something. And my mother still sings her butt off. And I just watched her. I watched her sing, and I kind of wanted to do exactly what she was doing. I watched her at home in the mirror. I watched her in the car, and then, it became like second nature to me. So I started singing as early as the church. And then as time progressed, I got into like the choirs and band in junior high and high school and things like that. And I got involved in jazz when so half of my high school year, I studied at a public school, and then the other half I studied at a performing arts high school. And in that public school, there was not really any jazz vocals. I mean, there was a jazz band. It was a very urban neighborhood is what they would call it today. And so they were really preparing students to go to like HBCUs and not necessarily be a part of different jazz programs. Like the people at the public school didn't know anything about IAJE or the Betty Carter Jazz Ahead program or the Young Arts Foundation, the National Foundation for the Advancement of the Arts, or the Grammy in the School program. They didn't know Sarah Vaughan, but Thelonious Monk. They didn't know anything about those competitions. Very poor neighborhood. And then I auditioned for 3 years in a row. I kept auditioning to the performing arts school, and I didn't get in. Freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year, I finally got in. So I transferred over to the performing arts school, and that's where I first heard jazz. One of my teachers, who's still very much a mentor of mine, his name is Roger Boykin. He introduced me to all types of music. He gave me like a compilation CD, and it had Little Jimmy Scott, it had Sarah Vaughan, it had Abby Lincoln, it had a bunch of different musicians that I knew I should be listening to. And he said, how is your name Jazzmeia Horn and you don't know nothing about jazz music? How is that even possible? And I was so embarrassed. But my response was, that's for old people. I don't want to play that, because I didn't know, none of my peers at the public school were even interested in jazz music. Everybody was interested in hip hop and R&B and gospel. And when I went to the performing arts school, everybody was concentrating on jazz, and I found out about all these programs. And it really opened up a lot of doors for me. So that's kind of how I got started.
It's interesting that you said how in your particular neighborhood, it was, dealing with a lot of things that people of color deal with, and being underfunded or the arts not being there. I had a similar experience too, where I didn't get introduced to jazz until it was junior high school. And my band teacher actually slipped me some CDs, same situation with you, and was like, get hip to this. And I'm like, this is what is it?
Exactly.
Crazy how this music is our legacy, and you would expect that with this music being our legacy, that it would be taught to us in our communities. And the sad thing is that it's not. Yeah, it's really sad. So how did you make the decision to go from high school and being interested in music, and decide, I want to go to New York City and really, really do this?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be a musician. I always knew I wanted to sing and dance and do something in the arts. And I just didn't know what that catalyst would really be. So my brothers and cousins and I, we all of us, there's 7 members in my family who went to this performing arts high school, by the way, right? So all of us, when the Grammys would come on, when the Soul Train Awards would come on, I'm kind of telling my age now, but when, you know, like so many different like award shows, we would record them on VHS and sit there and learn them, like learn all the dance movements. When BET was out, you know, or VH1, all of those different TV shows, we would, or cable shows, we would sit there and record them and then practice the routine. So More Than a Woman, Aaliyah, I can't just, I mean, whatever was out there, Boys to Men,
Jackson.
I mean, literally, yes, exactly. All of those moves, we knew them because we would just be, and all of us would sing, we would harmonize, and we'd be dancing. So I always knew it. My brother said, you know, one of us is going to get a Grammy or be nominated for a Grammy. If you get invited first, you have to take me. And if I get invited, I have to take you. And we pinky promised each other, you know. And that was like a thing, you know, we knew that we were going to be somebody special. And all of them have gone on and have great careers as well. So I didn't know that it was going to be jazz. It wasn't until I got into the performing arts high school that I actually took myself seriously in terms of music, right? Because I started seeing my peers take themselves seriously. It was the first time that I had ever seen anybody spend hours and upon hours practicing in a practice room. Right. So like I'd walk by the practice room after lunch and there'd be a person in there. And after school, that same person would be in there. I'm like, wow, so you actually have to practice, you know, because everybody in my family, it came natural to us. The singing and the dancing, it just came natural to us. We were not practicing it. That wasn't a thing. Also, we didn't have the money. There's like 7 of us. Nobody had the money to send us to have a private lesson, piano lessons and all of that. My mom didn't have the money for that. And so we just saw what we saw and we, you know, mimicked from that and we learned from that. And then when I got into high school and I learned about the Downbeat Student Awards, I applied my senior year and I won an award, you know, and I said, okay, well, there's the Grammy Jazz Ensembles. Let me see if I can get into that. And I auditioned and I got into that. And there were a bunch of different people there who were recruiting, the college recruiters, the deans of the different schools. So there was the dean of the new school, which her name is Terry Lucas. She doesn't work for the new school anymore. And then I can't remember the man who worked at Berkeley at the time, but they both were like trying to get me to go to Berkeley in the new school. You know, they were like, you know, you have a great talent. Why don't you come over to the new school? Or why don't you come and visit us and see what our school is about? We have great scholarships. And so I was like, I don't know. I live in Texas. If I can get a good scholarship, you know, if I can get a full ride, hint, hint, you know, I will come. And so I kept like battling them two against each other to kind of see which one I could get the most money from. And Berkeley didn't give me enough. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go to the new school, which worked out because it happens to be the mecca for jazz. You know, there's so much. I tell my parents back home, like, they're like, so what is it like? Because they still haven't come to like really spend time here. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's like back home in the sense that there's a church. There's a Baptist church on every corner. Well, here there's a jazz club, you know, on every corner. You can go to Smalls and go to Fat Cat down the street and go to the Blue Note and go to Groove. You know, there's a Smalls, Zinc. There's so many different clubs, you know, on every corner. And the same way that there's a McDonald's or a church or a Popeyes, you know, where I'm from on every corner. And so that has really helped develop my career is what I said to them, you know. Once I came here and I realized I could go see Roy Hargrove, God rest his soul, you know, every weekend because he just really loved hanging out, or, you know, somebody like George Cables, or, you know, any of those cats, Bernard Purdy or Ralph Peterson, God rest his soul, you know, we could go out and see them. If they were on the road or if they were playing, you could go and check them out. And so listening to them, you know, that's one of the things that really helped me too, is listening to the elders, because a lot of people say, oh, they old, they don't know what they're talking about. But the thing is that they have a lot of experience. There's a lot of stuff, you know, that we can learn from them, even though they may not know how to run their Facebook and their YouTubes or their Instagrams or their TikToks or whatever. We can teach them that, and they can teach us all of the different experiences that they have. You know, there should be some reciprocity going on. And so because I learned from elders in my community back home, I just stopped hanging out with the young people and just immediately started, calling up the elders, Jimmy Owens and Cecil Bridgewater and Ralph Peterson and whoever, Frank West when he was alive. I would just call him up and be like, hey, can I come by for a lesson? Like, what do you have to offer me? What can you tell me about this legacy? And so, it was just taking a serious approach to things, really trying to understand what it's about. And then to a certain extent, because they're all men, there's a whole lot of stuff that they actually can't teach me because they're men,
Right.
So that's when I would start calling on people like Dee Dee Bridgewater and Diane Reeves, specifically Dee Dee, because she has 3 children. I have 2 children, so I will call her. What do I do? What do I do? Like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, what advice do you have to give me? And she'd always say, Jazzmeia, there's no manual. Like, you have to. Each child is different. And it's going to be different from you. I can tell you what I've been through and share with you, but I can't tell you how to live. You're going to have to figure it out, and I can encourage you, but you're going to have to figure it out. So for women, it can be a lot more difficult. It has been, a lot more difficult. And I'm sure that you can attest to that as well, being the only women or the only woman, playing with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, or just being a vocalist and a saxophonist and a Black woman. Like, I'm sure you can attest to all of those things as well. So yeah, it's been a very difficult journey, but the Most High doesn't give us too much that we can't handle. Everything that we go through is to make us stronger. So I'm thankful.
And then also too, like what's beautiful, what you were saying, this music comes out of that lineage of hanging underneath the elders and
Yep.
watching them and learning from them and experiencing being like them. It was never a situation where it was like, hey, you want to come and learn? No, if you wanted to learn, you just had to show up
That's right.
and watch. And then if you're going to ask them a question, you better ask them a good question. But that experience is so important in the development, especially, for you and I, when we both came on the scene, that whole era of, okay, all the bands are touring and the great system, most of them are gone.
Yep.
So the closest that we could get to that apprenticeship was, like you said, going to hang out with them, going to ask questions, going to see them perform, and just making an effort to just be with them as much as possible, because that's as close as we could get to experiencing and understanding this music.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the importance, because you mentioned it, of reaching out to your elders, especially the women, because there's something special about being able to share your experience as an elder with the young generation. And there's things that, people like you and we won't know unless we tap into their experience. Could you talk about that and why it was so important to you to do that?
I felt lonely, I felt lost, and I felt overworked, when I first came into the industry, so to speak. And when I say came into the industry, I don't mean like when I was working on my own as a musician. I mean, like, once I got signed to a label and started to have a manager and a booking agency, like really be involved in the industry in many different ways. And as a business owner, things got a lot difficult for me because there was a lot that I didn't understand. I had graduated a university thinking that because it was specifically a music school and not just, a broad university, that I was going to be trained with the money that I had spent to go to college. And that's not exactly the case. The main focus was making sure that I understood theory, but also it was kind of like a playground. I felt like I was like an older adult being babysat versus actually going to learn something that was actually going to help me in my life. So a lot of things that are not taught in the school system, like logic or how to build a brand, you have to go to school specifically for marketing or for communications in order to do certain things that you need as a jazz musician. But as a jazz musician, I feel like you have to be eclectic enough to understand so many different things like logic and banking and understanding accounting and management and branding and social media and marketing and having a publicist and what those things mean and why. And so because I haven't, you have to ask my granddaddy. I'm always said this. He said, the man on the ground doesn't know how to get on top of the house. You have to ask the man on top of the house. And he's old. My granddaddy's almost 90 years old. And I used to be like, yo, shut up. Nobody want to hear that. What are you talking about? When I was like 13 and 14. By the time I got 18 years old, that one saying stuck with me. You have to ask the man on top of the house because the man on the ground don't know. And that's a real thing. Like if you on the ground next to me and you trying to get to the top of the house, the hell I'm gonna ask you for? You don't know. I have to ask the person. So the only people that are on top of the house are the elders. They've gotten to Jerusalem or the mountaintop, you know what I mean, so to speak. They've already been there and done that. So it's only fair, it's only righteous that I go and ask them, hey, so I don't really know how to write a chart. What do I do? I don't know how to book my band. What do I do? I don't know which microphone I'm supposed to use or which microphone might be comfortable for me, and for you, it may be a mouthpiece or, it may be a wood. You know what I'm saying? It differs and varies from person to person, from musician to musician. But there were a lot of questions that I wanted to ask. And I'm used to going to my mama and saying, hey, how do I change this diaper? Or, you know what I'm saying? The baby has a fever. What do I do? My mom is not a musician in that sense. So she wasn't able to help me. So the only people that we have to go to are the elders. And so I would just show up. Dee Dee would be playing somewhere and I would show up and just kind of force my way backstage, and watch. Herbie would be playing. I mean, whoever, Esperanza, whoever would be playing somewhere, and I would go. And I would think at home before I got there, like, what is the one question that I really need help on in my life? What is one thing that I'm really lacking in before I go see this person? If I can ask them one question. And what I liked about Dee Dee was she was like, I don't have time to tell you right now. I'm tired. I just had a gig, but you're going to be hungry tomorrow and you're in college and I can pay for your lunch and take you out tomorrow. So let's have lunch tomorrow type thing. You know what I'm saying? But if I hadn't gone up there, I would not have known that.
Exactly.
If you don't take a leap, you don't know. You never know. You have not because you ask not. So it's better for us to go in and say, I'm going to do the best that I can. It doesn't mean that we have to be disrespectful. You can be cordial, right? But just go in, if you're serious about this music, the elders will definitely open up to you, and they can tell the difference between somebody who's trying to be famous and have all these, preconceived notions about them and have these ulterior motives about what they want to do for the music and the legacy of the music versus somebody who's really serious and appreciates and has a reverence for the music. They can tell they're not stupid. So it really did just benefit me to just knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock until they open. And it wasn't like, la, 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 la. It was just, hi, how you doing? Make sure you see my face. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm coming back tomorrow. You're going to be here at the Jazz Standard for 6 nights. I'm coming back every 6 nights. You're going to see me at every set, And so that, just, I became annoying, but not in a sense of like, oh, that little girl's getting on my nerves. It's like, who is she? Why does she keep coming here? Oh, and she won the Seraphon competition. Oh, and she won the monk competition. Okay, she might be serious. All right, let me see what she's about. Then oh, you don't know this person. Oh, you don't know. I met Terry Lynn Carrington, and oh man, she's so helpful. She's so helpful. I met her and she's like, oh, you don't know Esperanza? Okay, cool. Oh, you don't know Diane? Oh, cool. Oh, you don't know such and such? You need to know this person. You need to know that person. And I really appreciate the women, especially because there hasn't been one woman that I've met in this industry who has been any kind of nasty towards me. Even before I had a name, there hasn't been one. So, I really appreciate that. That's really special. So I would just say, young people, go ask questions, especially if they have an Instagram, just send them, you talking about hopping in, it's a part of our culture as millennials to be sliding into the DMs, sliding their DMs, it's a serious thing, so.
Yeah. And then like what Jazz was saying, ask questions that are well thought out and well studied, because the last thing you ever want to do is, okay, how to get that gig or how to get that such and such, because if you really you're going to do your homework and really study so that when you ask a question, you have those 5 minutes to ask. It's something Take the time to really think about, so
Mhm.
that one, you're able to get a good answer, but two, also you have a chance to be able to have a connection with them to hopefully have a relationship that will flourish.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so good to talk to you.
Good to be here. Thank you
Yeah, of course.
for having me.
Some artists, sometimes I get questions from young women musicians, and they're like, well, when is the right time to find a booking agent? Or when is the right time to find a manager? What would your answer be to them?
Um, I would say it really depends on how fast your career is going. Like if you can handle booking and if you can handle all the things that all of those different things that you need or that you think you need, if you can handle all of their jobs, then it's not time. If you can't handle it, then it's definitely time, right? The first years of my career, so to speak, I didn't have management. I didn't have a booking agency. I didn't have a publicist. So I was doing all of those things on my own. So I spent a lot of research. What is a manager? What does a manager do? What is the manager's role? Who are the publicists? You know, I would look up all of those different artists that I like and whose music that I love and who I was seeing a lot on the scene and go look up who their publicist was. And then I would look up their websites and say, okay, well, what does this publicist do that one is not? And then I would go look at Europe and say, okay, which, Europe is the mecca for our music right now. So which publicists in Europe are doing what, what I would want for my business or for my company or for my brand, my name. Right. And I would look that up and then I would act as a publicist. So initially I created an alias email address, and I would handle my own business, and people would think, and I would just use my mother's name. People would think that someone else was talking on my behalf and working on my behalf, and it was me all the time up until about 2016 when I finally did get a manager. But I would just contact these different places, like where I wanted to go, these different festivals. I would contact them and use my mother's name, and I would say, hey, my name is such and such and such. I'm representing Jazzmeia Horn. Here is her EPK. Here's her press kit. She won this, that, the third. She was here. This is a news article. She'd like to perform here. My client would like to perform here. Boom, it's done, making sure that I had music. And what I would do is I would try to save up money from a couple of gigs and all those different, I would do a few things. So when you enter a competition, so like the Sarah Vaughan or Thelonious Monk, you have to have some type of music, some type of record. And it doesn't have to be extremely polished, but it should be good. For me, I wanted mine to be extremely polished because if I didn't get into the Sarah Vaughan competition, I would sell those little records and those little CDs at my gig. And not only that, I would use that as part of my EPK to shop off to different promoters and venues and say, well, this is what I sound like. Because I hadn't won Sarah Vaughan, I hadn't won Monk. I had just auditioned, but I had music. And so I would say, this is what I sound like. This is what my music sounds like. So this is what you would have at your club. This is my branding. This is my marketing, or this is her mark. I would say, I would use my alias. And it worked. It worked for a long time. And then eventually I just got overwhelmed. I was like, I can't do this. I got married, had a couple of children. I'm trying to balance my womanhood, my motherhood, being a wife, being a musician, being a composer, being a manager, being a publicist. I'm like, oh no, this is way too much work. So then it was time for me to get some help, And when I got the manager, a good thing about a manager is that they can assess your career and say, okay, you do need a publicist, or you're at a point where you don't need a publicist. You need a record company because that record company has a publicist attached to them, or you just need a booking agency. Once you have a booking agency, a record company will come because you have access to all these different platforms and all these different countries, and you're serious. So for me, by the time I got a booking agency, I was already telling them where I wanted to. I had already had a slew of dates. And they were like, you booked these on your own. I'm like, I sure did. So this is what I want. So then you, like, the beautiful thing about booking your own and doing your own is that when somebody works for you, you know how to talk to them and you know what to tell them, what to look for and how to, because you already have the experience doing it for yourself. And if they can't do it better than you, then it's time for you to find somebody else who can. So that's the beautiful thing about starting with the ground roots is that if someone you hire can't do a better job than what you can do, then you can always find someone else. And so that's how you choose your manager. That's how you choose your booking agency. That's how you choose people that you need to work for you, your lawyer, your publicist, whoever it is. If they can't do a better job than you, then you don't need them. And so in time we'll move on. Like, you'll outgrow managers, you'll outgrow booking agencies, you'll outgrow publicists, you'll outgrow them. Because the industry is forever changing. It's consistently changing. It's evolving. So that's just something to be aware of too.
Yeah, you gave a whole class right there to all our young listeners. But most importantly, before you even consider thinking of, oh, I need a manager, I need a booking agent, you always want to make sure, first and foremost, that the craft is right and tight.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's your calling card. That's how people remember you. That's how people know you. When you get to the city, I remember first time I got in the scene, it felt like I kept reintroducing myself 50 million times to the same person. But you know what? That's part of the business. That's part.
Yep.
And over time, the longer you stay at it, and the more frequent and consistent that you're able to play at a level that's good, really good, and people see you repeatedly, then they start to put the name with the face, with the sound, and that becomes the ball that starts rolling for you to build on top of. So understand and know that it's so important to make sure as you develop that craft, because that's what you're going to be selling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how people are going to come to you. So before
it starts with the branding. That's
right.
How you start your branding and your marketing.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Way before the management, way before the publicist, your skill.
Because that's also what, if someone is going to represent you or represent you, because technically you're being represented when someone else works for you. Right. So if someone is going to represent you, you have to already be a package. And if you're not already a package, it's something that they could offer. But if you're already a package and you already know what you want to do, then it's better for them. It's easier for them because it's easier for them to sell you, because you're not interchanging. You already have yourself established, and you already have your foundation. Right. So that's something to think about too. Yeah.
Yep. I wanted to ask you to share some insight on developing your voice as an artist, because a lot of times I get questions from young ladies and they ask about, well, how do you develop your craft, your voice, so that people understand and recognize you for being who you are? What was your process?
Right. Hold on 1 second. What did you say? What, did you finish all of your food? No. So then you can't have another pickle. All that is left is macaroni. So then eat it. I don't care what it is. If I put it on your plate, you have to eat it before you can have another pickle. You already know that answer, right? So you don't even have to ask me. Please go sit down and finish. Okay. Sorry. Okay. And so you were saying some young women are asking you about your voice, like,
no, developing your craft, like, this is my identity, this is my sound, this is my style, this is who I am. Like, what was your process in refining Jazzmeia?
Oh Lord, we're gonna be on here for the next 20 hours. No, I'm joking. That's I mean, we can talk about that for a while. In a nutshell, it never what I will say is that it started by me understanding my heritage and my culture. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I first moved to New York, I didn't know anything about African culture. And the only African American culture that I knew was from the church, because that's where I grew up. And I was kind of sheltered. Like, my parents didn't I wasn't the child that got to go hang out and go to sleepovers and go to parties or go to the movies alone. That was never a thing. I was always at church Monday through Sunday. And so that's all I knew. So coming to New York, the Big Apple, by myself at 17 years old, I didn't even know who I was, because I was like, wait a minute. She looked like me and she's wearing hijab. What is that about? She's looked like me and she's wearing, like, who am I? Where are these Black women from? What are they doing? How did I miss the memo? Like, it was just it was such a culture shock. And I was just like, what is this? And And so I started to ask, I started to go to the masjid and ask the ladies about the Nation of Islam and who they were and why. And then seeing the difference between African-American Muslims and African Muslims. And then seeing the difference between African-American sisters who practice voodoo and sisters from Haiti who practice voodoo. And seeing the difference between African Christians and African-American Christians, and seeing it was just, I was like, what is this? Then seeing Indian culture and Jewish culture and Israeli culture and Chinese culture and Korean culture. And I mean, it was just very much a culture shock. And so I had to humble myself because I felt like I didn't belong as an African-American. I was like, okay, so what do I have, and that's kind of where jazz took over. That's kind of where jazz just really wrapped me up and embraced me. And there were so many different things that I tried. I started to embrace my natural hair, so I grew a really big afro, and that helped me to develop my style. But then a lot of people kept saying, oh, you look like Esperanza and it's not good for branding and people are going to think you're this person. It just, I kind of felt torn. And then I got married, and my ex-husband was like, oh, I think you should have locks. My dream wife, has locks. And so then I grew locks, but I wasn't really comfortable with my hair. And so I started wrapping my hair up. And it just so happened that during that time, most people would start taking pictures of me, and those pictures start becoming what they saw of me, the head wrap, the head wrap, the head wrap. And so that became a part of my branding, and I just stuck by it, no matter what I did with my hair, no matter how I changed my style, that became a part of my branding and my marketing. And I enjoyed it. And this was like, even before head wraps were a trend like they are now, it was just a part of what I had found was my heritage and part of my culture. And so I embraced that. And then after finding actually what my heritage and my culture is, the reverence that I had for my culture. I mean, anything that I do it wholeheartedly. So if I'm singing a tune, I'm about to sing the mess out the tune. If I'm teaching, I'm about to teach. Man, you gonna learn today. Like whatever it is that I'm doing. If I'm cleaning my floors, I'm about to scrub the mess out of those floors. Like whatever it is that I'm doing, I put my whole entire self into it. And so I immersed myself into my culture wholeheartedly. And as that pertains to jazz, it pertains to anthropology, music, style of dress, which is anthropology, food. I mean, everything. Like I really tried to just really embrace all that I am, and then figure that out, because that's really difficult as an African-American woman too. And so once I was comfortable with myself, everything just came naturally. Because I was comfortable saying to a club owner, no, you're not paying me $200. You're going to pay me $2,000, or I'm not doing this gig, because I'm comfortable in myself. Right. Or I don't have a contract. So nothing is, like I really started to understand things differently and embrace myself as a person, as an individual, and also to take my brand, seriously. Now, instead of me just being, okay, I'm this singer who may be beautiful and I have this cute little sound or whatever, that went out the window. I'm Jazzmeia Horn, and my business is the artistry of jazz horn. And that's how I do business. And this is how I conduct business. And I'm on time to everything. And I represent my brand everywhere that I go. And you just establish yourself differently versus just, oh, I'm just this singer doing this one thing. And then people start to really take you serious. And then you start to cultivate, you teach people how to treat you. That's something that my grandmother always told me. You have to teach people how to treat you. Otherwise, they'll just treat you any kind of way or do what they're used to doing. And it may not be malicious. They may not be malicious. It's just people are accustomed to doing what they can get away with. But if you step out and say, this is where we are, it's just like if you're playing a tune, this is where one is. It's the same vibe. So, it's kind of interchangeable there. It's the same way. You take control of the music in the same as a leader, in the same way that you take control of your career and what you have to offer to the people.
That's right. And then also having a vision too, knowing exactly what you want to go for and what you definitely do not want to go for.
Right.
Yep. Girl. You're giving a whole master class today.
Come on. Yes. All praise to the Most High.
You were touching on some things about, like, when I was listening to you, taking the time to develop yourself as a person and it being beyond the music, because the music is a reflection of your mindset, your mindset of how you see yourself, how you want people to respect you and see you, but also what you're embracing and what you're upholding, whether it's the history, your culture, your lineage. And I wanted to ask you, were there any books or any particular things on your journey that was helpful to you in embracing this?
People ask me that question a lot. I would say, books. I would say The Four Agreements. It's a very easy read, very short read. I would say the Destruction of the Black Civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams. This man is blind, or was blind before he passed, and he dedicated the last 10 years to his life sharing facts and just really cultivating this book about all these different topics. Some of the stuff he found and was able to get a hold of, is like in the Vatican. So just by knowing certain things about my history and my heritage, that was so empowering for me. Even studying parts of the Bible and understanding, what it means to be a child of the Most High, like understanding what the children of Judah and the children of Israel had to go through, how they were in Egypt and how they came out of Egypt. And, I think that book, the Bible, is really important too. It depends on which version you're reading. I like to read the Sefer because it goes back to the ancient Hebrew way of reading things. I would say Coming Forth by Day and by Night was a book that was also helpful for me. That was really a book about the ancient systems that the Egyptians had. Asada, which is a book about Asada Shakur and her life. That book was very helpful for me. I could go on. I don't actually, getting into etymology was also really helpful for me. I ended up buying a lot of old dictionaries that specifically were dedicated to teaching Americans or those who speak English, Middle English, and understanding. There are certain words that we use now, for example, like nice, which comes from the Latin root nasir, which means foolish or stupid. So when you say it's nice to meet you, you say it's foolish to meet you. And understanding the power of that life and death lie in the power of your tongue, and understanding what that means and how you use your words and how you speak that against your music or to and through your music, that's very important. When you write lyrics to your song and you say, I had a nice time, nice. Okay. If you were drunk, you probably did have a nice time. You had a foolish time. You know what I'm saying? Understanding etymology was also really helpful for me, like on this journey, just being able to know what I'm talking about and know how to address what it is that I would like to address. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like that. And then also taking certain words and breaking down grammar in a way that doesn't necessarily fit the vernacular or the structure of the English language. That's also been helpful for me. So there are like a bunch of different books that I have. What is this one? I'm just looking. Most of these are not even in print anymore. So like this is an old one, very old dictionary, extremely old dictionary. This is cool too. Books like this that were written in 1919, because that helps me to understand what my ancestors were going through also, and to know like how to pick up the torch and consistently. This right here, The African Abroad, this book was written 1897. I think this book was like $200, but it was worth it. It was totally worth it. So yeah, reading books that are like ancient, and they're not really ancient, but they're old compared to where we are today in 2021. That was also very helpful for me because it helps me to understand. I mean, like when you understand history, there's nothing, there's nothing that can phase you. For me, there hasn't been nothing. I don't feel any way about anything. I know that that the Most High has ordained my life, and that it doesn't matter what happens or anything that anybody tries to throw at me. I'm still going to be strong enough to be who the Most High called me to be. Jazzmeia Horn, as a jazz musician. I didn't know I was, I didn't make myself. So just being confident in the gift that the Most High has given me, and being confident in the name that my grandmother, my ancestor had given me through the Most High. Like there isn't anything that I won't be able to do, if I just trust Yahweh's word, and if I just, press towards the mark, that's basically how I live my life. And hopefully somebody can see that and feel like they can make it through all kinds of adversity, that we live through. I don't know if you I don't watch the news, but a friend of mine texted me and said the George Foreman, I'm thinking about a grill. The George Floyd case was done today, and that the murderer actually had been convicted. And that's like real deep, because that hasn't happened in years. That has not happened in years.
Yep. There's a long history of Black people that have been murdered without any justice.
Yep. For a plethora of years. So that's, that's deep. That's really deep. We're living in a very interesting time, and the best thing that we could do is be ourselves and be true to who we are as individuals. Whether we're a musician or a teacher or a doctor, everybody has their own purpose in this life. We were all called here for some specific reason. Ella and Sarah didn't sound like each other, but they still were able to live and have their own crowds and make money and feed their families and be, who they were and leave a legacy. It doesn't mean you have to be like somebody. This whole monoculture that they're pushing now for everybody to sound like the same person and everybody be like the same person. I really want the children to think differently, which is why I'm writing songs like Free Your Mind and Let Your Thoughts Expand. Don't be conformed, be not conformed to this world. Just be you, and everything will be all right.
Yeah,
be all right.
That's like the perfect thing you said, because we had Diane a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying the same thing. Just be yourself, and use your full artistry, and just be yourself.
Yep.
That's what you could do, and the world needs it.
That's right.
Yep. I was gonna ask you a question because you were talking about the history, and I'm a firm believer in one, as an artist, making it a priority to study the history, but also to remember that we're part of that history, and that using the time that we're living in, you can use your art as a way of reflecting that history, but also putting a perspective on what's happening now in your world, and being able to shed light onto those things for the next generation, or for the community that we live in. You talk about how you do that through your music.
Oh, can I talk about how I do that through my music? Yes. How do I do that through my music? That's a good question. I kind of just my personality is very two and threefold, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, I'll say one thing, but if you're listening, you'll get what I'm really saying. You know what I mean? A lot of my music, you know, if you decode it, for example, like just because I mentioned free your mind, you know, free your mind and let your thoughts expand. You know, that literally means get yourself mentally away from all the social media, all of the programming, all of the mental chaos that is removing you from being who you truly are and walking in your divine purpose, and then soar, right? Let your thoughts expand and then soar in that, right? So with my music and with my words, specifically what I write, and then that's another reason why I like to take standards and make them sound like something completely different, because I want that message to really come across. It's important for the music, for the lyrics to be the weight or the foundation. You know, as vocalists, we are storytellers. It's our job to tell the story and make sure that story gets across, you know, and then it's all about how you approach it and how you do that. So for me, I like to be subtle. My sound is very much in your face, but my lyrics are, if you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't, you know. Freedom's alive inside child, woman, and man. That's the Holy Trinity. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different, you just have to listen. You know, when you really listen, you'll really see exactly what I'm talking about. If you miss it, you miss it. And if you get it, you get it. But either way, it's, you know, the message is there, kind of like a lullaby to lull a baby to sleep, or, you know, but you know, you get revived. Hopefully, I mean, I'm just a vessel. So I'm hoping that what it is that I'm sharing as a catalyst will really get through to the minds and spirits, you know, and hearts of the people that are listening. And sometimes that's intentional and sometimes it's not. You know, for example, some women came up to me recently after a show and were like, I really like When I Say. I think it's a very a song that's very powerful, and it really speaks to women empowerment. When I Say is a song that I wrote in the voice of my toddlers. When I say stop on a dime, no wasting time, just do what I say. You just heard her come in here and ask for a pickle. You know, she didn't even eat all her vegetables, and she's like, "Can I have another pickle?" Like, stop on a dime, no wasting time, do what I say. It must be my way or the highway. You know, that's from the mouth of babies. They want it done right there and right. They don't care if you got to work. They don't care. They don't care about that. But in her eyes, she was saying, I've had enough of working for these men. I've had enough for raising all of America's babies and being away from my own. I've had enough, you know. I'm like, I hear you. It's not that for me. For me, it wasn't that. It was through the voice of my babies. But you never know what the Most High has. You never know how the message is going to reach the people. You just never know. So that's not always my intention, but it always comes out that way. So I really hope that I'm saying something that is helping somebody. Sometimes I don't know, because I mean, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my stuff. And sometimes I feel like the tunes that I write are corny, you know, because it's straight ahead and, you know, whatever. I have these thoughts and these, you know, I have my own thoughts about what my music is. And, you know, I don't always think that it's great. And then people are touched by it. And so it's good. So I think that, you know, it's a beautiful thing to speak about what's happening in society. I definitely think that it's necessary, because otherwise, especially in jazz, because you're not going to hear it otherwise. They're not telling you what's happening on the radio. You know, they want to give you all of this different stuff, you know, in the news that is kind of telling you what's happened, but it's their own version of it because they own all the media companies, you know. So I think it is, I think it definitely is our responsibility, but I also don't look down on those who do not, because there are a lot of musicians who do not utilize their platforms to speak out about the times, and that's okay. Everybody has their purpose. If that's not something that they want to do, then it's not something that they do, and it is what it is. But I know what I'm going to do, and that's all that I can control. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question about putting together the band. How do you pick the right people for your vision of what you look for in your music?
I try to make sure that people are professional, number one, because we talked about branding and marketing. I'm a Black woman, so people are already expecting me to be a diva. She's going to show up late. She's not going to show up to sound check. There's already this what is the word?
Notions.
Stigma, right? Preconceived notions. But there's this, I was going to say stigma, but there's also, this vibe that, oh, it's a Black woman. Okay, she's going to be late. She's going to do this. They already have set in their mind, about what we should do or how we should act or what we,
Mhm.
So for me, I have to pick musicians and be around musicians that are like-minded, meaning if you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, but you have to respect your mother and respect your elders and respect your wife. I don't travel on the road with musicians who are married who would disrespect their wives on the road by like going to hang with other women and all that kind of stuff. I've never done that. I've never had any of those kind of musicians, playing with me. Also because, how you are with your mother, how you are with your aunts, with women in your life, it tells you how you're going to be with me. And I don't have time to be around in another country trying to tell you what you need to. I don't got that to do. I'm not about to be in Australia, you know what I'm saying, thousands of miles away, trying to get you to show up to sound check so that I can pay you. I don't have that to do. So it's, the professional level is the first thing, but then also spiritually, I want to play with musicians who really have a reverence for the music, and it's not about them. It's really about the spirit of the music and allowing themselves to let go and possibly minister to somebody in the audience who has never seen the light, who has never felt powerful or felt good about themselves, or, just I want to share that goodness. I want to share that goodness with people. And if you are playing all your chops on top of everything because you think you this, I just can't. So I like to play with musicians who also have great ears and they can listen, because listening is the most important thing, because I'm listening. I kind of sit myself in the center to where the pianist is right and to my right, the drummer is right to my left directly, and the bassist is right behind me, and it's kind of like a trinity around me, and I close that, right? So it's like a point here, a point here, and a point here, and I'm closing that bottom point. So it's like a trinity, like a pyramid, if you think about it. And that energy, that force, that vibration is what gets to the people, because people are mostly made up of water. We know that, and water remembers things. Water is very important. And so when you sing or when you play your instrument, certain notes heal certain parts of the body. And your body remembers, that's how we're able to remember those melodies. Yes, it's a part of our tactile memory, but it's also in our bodies. The vibration, the frequencies of the music is also in what we play. And I want to be around musicians who are going to play positively, and be supportive of one another. So because I want that in my community, I want that for my family. So there's that interconnectedness of, if it feels like family off stage, then it's gonna be great on stage, and if it doesn't, if there's a clashing, I don't even bother it, but also somebody who can have fun, because I'm goofy. Oh man. I like to clown. I like to play Uno on the road. And, most of the times we stay in Airbnbs unless we're traveling like extremely far, because I like to cook Southern food for my band too. I like to take care of them like they're my brothers, because they are my brothers. And my sisters in some cases. Like I love to play with India Owens. She's a great bassist. I know you know India, right? Yeah, you know India. Yeah. So let me not say just brothers, because there are some sisters too that I love playing with. So I like to take care of y'all like y'all my family. And so I have to have that. Like if there's one person that's like, oh, I don't do cards and dominoes, or I don't do that. If they're okay and they'll just be there for the hang, then that's cool. But if they're like, no, I don't do this. This is childish. You're not getting hired, bro. I'm sorry. Because I like to have fun. It has to be both. You have to be professional, but you have to be able to
Human.
Exactly. We're human beings. So it has to be a balance, and everything. Too much of this, it's not good. It's not good for you. So there has to be a balance in that way.
Yeah. If I could throw something in too, I love to have musicians that I know they got my back. Because sometimes when you're a band leader and you're a woman, you're dealing with some things out there on the road and it's just you. You want to know that you have your brothers, so that if anything goes down, they have your back.
Yep.
And it's not crickets and it's like, oh dang, I gotta roll up my sleeves and
Yep.
because stand up for you. Because sometimes you go and travel different places and you might be in a situation where you might be working with somebody and they won't talk to you business, even though you're the band leader or you're the person that they have to communicate with. And I've seen situations where a musician in a band had to be like, no, she's the band leader. You should talk to her because she's the person that you need to talk to. So you want to make sure that you have your brothers that got your back and that will say, listen, you got to talk to her, or hey, if you're going to try this with her, it's going down with the three of us too. So come on, show us what you got.
Thank you for sharing that. I've never had that experience. I don't know if see, I can sense that energy before he gets to my rehearsal. Cause see, what I do is go out to the jam sessions and I scout, and I'm watching how you playing with other people while you don't even see me. I'm behind the piano in a hoodie, or I'm in the back of the room with a hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? And you don't see that I'm there because maybe I need a new pianist, or maybe I need a new bassist because Eric or Keith or somebody's not available. So I'm scouting you and I'm watching how you're treating other women and how you're treating other people. And I'm not calling you if I see something that's not going to fly with me. So I'm not even and that's what I meant when I said how you respect your mother, how you are with your mother, how you are with your sisters, other women on the scene. I'm looking at that too. If a woman walks by and you see her, she has a bunch of groceries or whatever, she just may walk by, she's carrying something, and you let the door slam in her face, yeah, I might not hire you for a gig. Yes, it's that serious. Because if I'm walking somewhere and my tour manager is not there and I have my duffel bag and I have my luggage with my whatever in it, I got some CDs or something, and you walk by me, we finna fight. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna call another musician and you going home. Like, yeah, that having back, that energy has to be there from the jump for me. When we getting in the ring together, and I need you to have my back door and my side door. We just kicking A from the jump. And if you know where to be, y'all look to my left and my right, you not there, you better be flying ahead of me then. If you not to my left or my right, I better see you in the sky getting ready to light the fire somewhere. You Phoenix rising down on them. Otherwise, I don't have nothing to talk to you about. I don't got no change because the thing is, I'm so serious, Camille, because I'm a mother, I have to be away from my children and share my energy with other people in the universe and be away from them. I'm feeding you. I'm the band leader and I'm paying you a percentage of what I am making. You have to act a certain way. You have to conduct yourself a certain way. Otherwise, I'm not sharing with you. I'm not obligated to. There are so many musicians on this planet who can play their butts off and would be more than willing and more than happy to be there to support. You know what I'm saying? This world is full of a lot of misogynistic men, and they have been learning from other misogynistic men. We just got a man who was in in the office who was acting how he was acting, and other men saw that and thought that it's okay to talk about women's vaginas and grab women and do certain things. You stay right on over there doing that. You're not coming in this band doing all of that. That's a real thing. Because not only that, I have to teach my daughter, like I have daughters, so I have to teach them how to work with certain people and work with men and women, and that's not, I don't want to show, that's not something that I want to show my daughters. It's okay to take that. It's okay, because it's not. You know what I mean? You have to stand up for what you believe in, and if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And I'm not falling, and I'm not allowing somebody else to be a fall for me either. So in the same way, and I look at myself as a CEO. Mm-hmm. If you wouldn't make it in the white man's company, you sure ain't gonna make it in mine. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? No, but because this is what, like, when I enter into the industry as the Artistry of Jazz Horn LLC, I am not, none of that matters. I am a number. I am an entity. I am an EIN at that point. So what's happening in corporate America for certain businesses is also what I'm applying to my business as well. And that's how it's going to be run. And I'm not going to play no games, because I don't have time to do that. I don't. So it's real serious business. And I also, just having spoken to women like Diane Reeves and Dee Dee Bridgewater and Jean Baylor and just so many different, they're not putting up with the Cassandra Wilson. You think child, please? Oh no, that lady right there. No. So, you know, and then that's how the name diva gets started. Oh, because she's this and she's that, you know, because they can't do what they want to do on the gig. That I don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna come, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna sing my songs, right? I'm gonna dress my part, I'm gonna look my part, I'm gonna sign my CDs, and I'm gonna take my narrow behind home and get in the bed, and that's it. And somebody who's got a problem with it, that's why they're not playing with me no way. That let them have that problem somewhere else. Really, it's just for me to do what the Most High has for me to do. And in protecting myself, making sure that I can have my peace and my serenity when I travel, I have a specific protocol for who I hire to play in my band. And that's it. It has everything to do with how they act towards women. That's the very first rule. How do they act towards other women? Because I cannot be uncomfortable at my own show. I refuse to be. I'm not finna be up in here and you not talking to me, and I gotta pay you at the end of the night. You think you finna get some money and you don't want to talk to me about what charts and what changes we playing? Oh no. See, we not doing that. Sis, you already know me. I don't got that to do. You might move on.
No, but some things are important to talk about. And you know, when you're a young woman developing as a musician, and if you're starting your own band, you got to understand and know what standards you're going to uphold and what standards you're not going to uphold or take. And whether you're doing business, working with musicians, or even dealing with the business, as in you're dealing with promoters, or you're dealing with the bookers, or whomever, you still have to have a certain standard that you have to hold high. And sometimes it does get uncomfortable. I mean, especially when you start traveling out there on your own, you want to have a band that has your back, that that when things start to get a little interesting and funky, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. That you have them with you to be able to fight for you too. Because sometimes that is necessary. Well, you might have to say, hey, okay, you don't want to pay me? You're going to have to deal with me and my band. And the band members would be like, yeah.
You're going to have to deal with us.
Honor that contract, or honor whatever the situation is. Mm-hmm. So it's important you pick the right people who have your back and love you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Camille.
Oh man, I love you so much. Thank you so much for me. Thank you. We have a question, and for those who are watching, if you have a question for us, please feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll do our best to keep up. But we had a question from a woman in South Africa. Hey, her name is Bon.
Gunjani.
She said, in the midst of all these energy sapping events that are taking place within the Black community, how do you keep your energy vibrating at a brighter and lighter level in order to continue with your work in music? That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't turn on the TV. That's the number one thing. And I limit my time on social media. Like if I'm on Instagram or whatever, I have an alarm and it'll go off after an hour. Like if I'm on Instagram for an hour, it'll go off and say, hey, you've been on Instagram for an hour. And I'll just literally shut my phone down. I spend a lot of time doing arts and crafts. A lot of time doing arts and crafts. It just literally is something about the colors and being able to paint and, you know, do like, you know, little fun like stuff. You can get, Kaya, come here. You can get like little small things. Bring me those butterflies out of there, out of the paint bucket. You can get little small things at the dollar store. And also I spend most of my time with my children. In the daytime, I'm spending time with them. We're going out. We're taking a walk in the park. Thank you.
She's my sister.
Okay, thank you. This is her sister. She wants to show you. So this was like 50 cents, you know, at the dollar store. And we just have some fun doing things like this.
Here's my art.
Okay, this is Kaya's art. You know, so stuff like that. I also have let them take over the walls in my apartment. Like they've painted and colored all over the walls. We have no more white. Because the pandemic is really rough, you know, and if they're not going outside, they have to be able to do something because it's just as stressful for them as it's been for us as adults. And then also listening to music that is outside of my genre, meaning like I'm not, what's his name? What is his name? What's his name? Joe Dyson. Joe Dyson just came out with a new album. That's probably the only jazz album that I've been listening to for the past 2 weeks because too much of one thing, like they say, too much of one thing will kill you. You know, I've been listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays and Tina Marie and the OJs and, you know, old school music that I listened to growing up because it was really sentimental to me. Now, I'm not saying every now and then I won't listen to a Love Supreme or Free for All or, you know, Resist, Abby Lincoln and Max Roach. I'm not saying that I won't. It's just not every day, all day, because it can be too much. You know, before the pandemic, every day, all day, I was listening to a lot of bop, a lot of bebop, a lot of free jazz, a lot of cool jazz, a lot of straight ahead. But then during the pandemic, I had to switch it up a little bit. So I would say those things: consistently listening to music, also praying a lot. Praying is, I mean, like that's the closest thing you can get to the Most High. So for me, so I like to pray. I pray. At this point, I'm praying like 3-4 times a day. So praying is really helpful. And a lot of times I like to write my prayers down, and sometimes I may paint them on a like on a canvas or something. Or like some sayings. Like I just recently did this one and put it above my bed. It's not the greatest, right? It's kind of hideous, but it says, always aim at complete harmony of thought and word and deed. Always aim at purifying your thoughts and everything will be well. Mahatma Gandhi. So stuff like, I mean, I really do. I'm not the greatest, you know, visual artist. I'm not the greatest artist. So, you know, it's just, it helps me to maneuver through the day and, you know, not just sit at a computer or stare at it, because there's so much going on in society and I don't want to consume all of that negative energy, because everything that's happening is negative. A lot of the things that they're showing in, you know, on these AI screens is negative. So you have to be the positive energy and the positive reinforcement that you want to see in the world. And so I try to do that and create my own world in here. So I hope that answered your question, Sis Wami.
The next question we had is, how do you balance being an artist and being a mother?
I'm still learning how to do that. That's not a, like Dee Dee told me, there's no manual, so it's difficult. But what I do like to do is create my little schedule, so to speak. So I have a schedule every day and the children have a schedule every day. Every time when they're doing something, I'm doing something. When they're doing their homeschool work, I'm writing tunes or responding to emails. When they're napping, I'm napping if I'm really tired, or I'm fixing dinner so that when they wake up, they can have dinner. When they're taking a bath, I'm on the phone, I'm doing an interview, or like, whatever. I make different times that different things that they have to do or activities that they have to do work for my schedule. And it's not the same every day. Some days some days like I'm right on schedule. Some days I'm 6 hours behind schedule. It's never, it's consistent. It's consistently inconsistent, so to speak. It's organized chaos. So it's not an easy task at all, but it's doable. So that's the best answer that I have for you.
Okay, and our final question is scatting. How do I start? What should I look for? And how do I perfect it and get better?
I think we both can answer that question because you are a killing scatter as well. I would say rhythm is the first thing that you need to be worried about. Because a lot of singers say, oh, all these syllables that you use, I'm like, once you get your rhythm together and you know what it is that you want to say, it will naturally come out. It's not about, oh, I bebop the dee da blah. No, it's not about that. It will come naturally. I would also say practicing chord changes, like literally breaking the chords down for in root position, not in different positions, but just to start, because you said, how do I start? Just in root position. You cannot scat if you don't know what you're scatting over. You have to know the melody, because once you know the melody, you can know the form and the shape of the tune. Once you know the melody, then you learn the changes that are on top of the melody. So once you learn those changes, you can sing that melody differently. You can interchange notes in that melody, right? Then, so for example, let's say East of the Sun. La da 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 la da 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 da. You can say instead of la da da da, you can say la da 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 la da 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 la da 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 la da 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 da. It just depends on like what you actually want to say. Right? Once you learn those changes, that's your bread and butter right there. So rhythm and then the changes. From there, you can transcribe solos. That's the first thing that I did that helped me, because that also helps me. Transcribing helped me with my breathing. It helped me with my intonation. It helped me with my diction. It helped me with my reading. Exactly. It helped me with note choice. Like, and so many different people have different things to say. You listen to Chet Baker versus Booker Little, and they are two completely different trumpet players. You listen to
you can listen to Sonny, you can listen to Stanley Tarantine, you can listen to Shirley, you can listen to Betty.
Right. Exactly. So I would say just listen. You need to spend a lot of time listening and transcribing, and then also just learning the changes in the melody. So I would say get a real book or some type of book that has standards in it, or find the sheet music to the tunes that you know, so that you can know exactly what is written. If you don't read music, then I would say go and sit with some musicians who do, and use your phone even as a recorder, so that you can hear how it goes, so that you can go back and practice and listen to that, if you don't read yet. I hope that was helpful. And Camille, I want to hear what you got to say too, because look, what you got to say, sis?
No, you nailed all of it. For what I would suggest is the melody is your best friend. And Mama Charlotte's on here. Hi, Mama Charlotte. She said intervals, which is 1,000% correct. Look at those.
She said what?
Intervals of the melody, because that's going to help you understand the shape of the melody, so that when you're singing over those chords, you can hear how it fits, so that you can be able to fit those shapes along with the sounds that you hear. So Jazz said ba da 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 da.
Right.
Going up.
Yep. And down.
Listen, Is it wide? Is it narrow? And then being able to understand, okay, the melody is in phrases. So use that to work off with.
Yep.
You have da 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 da. You have la da 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 la da 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 la
Yep.
la da da da. It's the same shape. I'm just shifting it for harmonically what's happening in that space of time. You could think of phrasing within 2 bars. You could think of it in 3 bars, 4 bars, however you want to, but you want to try to use what you have, which is that melody and them intervals, so that you could fit it within the sound and see if you can get yourself to utilize it the whole way through the progression.
Mhm.
If you could do that, now you're training yourself to you're training yourself to listen to what you hear with your ear, but
Yes.
also to modify. And it only are going to be a half step or a whole step away.
Mhm.
So that's the 101, of course.
Yes.
Piano, look at them changes, understand what a 2-5-1 is. What's the sound of a 2 going to the 5? What's the sound of the 2 going to the 5 to the 1? Why does it work? How does tension and release work when you're dealing with sound? Because that's what we're doing all the time when we sing the melody or when
Yeah.
we rise off of the melody, where we're taking off and where we landing.
Mhm. Yes.
I
Talking
love
about master class. You talking about giving a master class. You just gave a whole dissertation.
it. Girl, maybe we should do like a separate session.
I would actually love that. Yes, that would be fun.
Maybe we could do that. Speaking of vocal education, Jazz has an amazing book that she just launched and
Oh,
she's
thank you.
teaching. So please send her an email or go to her website, follow her on Instagram and Facebook if you want to learn more about the School of Jazzmeia Horn.
Thank you.
Get your education on because it's a great experience. I guarantee you that you're going to learn a lot. If you thought you learned a lot today, you're going to learn a lot when you enroll into her program. Jazz, I love you dearly. Thank
I
you so
love you too, Camille.
much. It's such a pleasure having you.
Really.
So
I appreciate
everybody,
it. I really do.
oh, it's funny because a couple of days ago I saw a picture of us from the competition, and I was like, "Oh my God,
Wait. Which competition?
Sarah Vaughn holding all of our plaques."
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. I thought you were gonna say the what was the other one that we did together and I had to walk on that dude talking about what he say? I want you to make me feel like I got hit by a bus. I will never forget that. That was a hot mess. That's what happens when other people try to take over your culture. Okay. We don't want you to sound like you're getting hit by a bus. I don't want that feeling. I want joy. I want peace. I want love. I want prosperity. I want to be revived when you play music to me. I do not feel like I want to get hit by a bus. I said, sir, how you a judge telling people they want to get hit by a bus? What? No. I thought that's the competition you was. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that too. We've been in some competitions together, sis. We've got some history.
We do. We've been in the trenches.
Yes. On the scene too.
Yes.
But I love you and I appreciate you, my sister. Indeed.
I love you too so much. Thank you for doing this. Everybody, thank you for joining us on the Haven Hang today. We're going to have another one in May. We're doing it bi-monthly now. So if you want to find out more information on the next Haven Hang, you can go to www.camillethurmanmusic.com/the Haven Hang, or you can go on Instagram at Camille Thurman. Next month, we're going to have Patrice Russian.
Oh, nice.
And I'll see you there. Bye.
Bye, y'all.